Hi, I'm Laura.
Hey, I'm Stefan, and you're listening to Attributed, a podcast library by Dreamdata.
The purpose of it is to store and share all the knowledge that we have gathered across Dreamdata employees through our LinkedIn Lives, podcasts, and webinars.
The typical topics you'll find here can be stuff like marketing,
Sales,
B2B ads,
operations,
social selling, maybe. Today, I'm really excited to have Silvio with me. Silvio will introduce himself in a minute, but I can just go out and state that I think you're probably one of the guys that I follow across the internet where I get the most FOMO whenever you release a new tactic on YouTube or LinkedIn or in your newsletter. I have to read through this because it seems really on point, the stuff that comes out. I haven't acted upon most of it, which I guess is the typical pattern, but it really makes me think that, wow, shit, there's more stuff I can do here. But Silvio, maybe you can just do the brief intro to yourself, the first minute or two, and then we'll go on with one of the friends I have that commented on this event title.
Yeah,
Best
absolutely.
title ever.
I
So let's see.
I'm hyped just from that intro music. I felt like we were like I don't know if you ever saw Ron Burgundy, like the
Yeah.
anchor. We're about to go live, Well, I'm happy to be here and sorry to contribute to your FOMO. It's a good thing that you haven't tried everything because that's actually one of the traps that people fall into is
Yeah.
they take on too much too soon and they don't actually execute anything well. They just have all these half-built bridges, kind of save it for later. But a quick intro on myself. My name is Silvio Perez. I'm the founder of AdConversion. I am a total nerd, all things ads. I have a YouTube channel. I've created over 50 plus video tutorials on all different topics around advertising. I wrote a book called Google Ads Profits. I currently work with different B2B SaaS clients, helping them manage and create their campaigns. I'm actually in the process of launching my new venture, which I'm super excited about. And I'm basically transforming ad conversion into something else. More to come. Cliffhanger. But I'll be announcing that more next month. And yeah, before that, I was the head of performance and product innovation at a company called Metadata. Got to work with tons of different B2B accounts. I've probably looked inside at least over 115 accounts across all different industries in SaaS.
Are you going down the software path, or is it a consultancy, or can you reveal just a little bit more about what's coming up?
Yeah, it is ed tech. So it's going to be software is the end goal, but to start, it's going to be no code just to keep it simple, validate product market fit. And then from there, the goal is definitely to build some sort of tech behind it.
Super interesting. So as I said before, one of my friends termed this the best title ever for an event, which is 10 paid ad tactics that always work in B2B. What's not to like about it? I just gave you that kind of suggestion for the title because I really like when we get tangible about things and just don't just keep it high level, but introduce things that the people who are watching can actually take away from home.
It was a good exercise for me too. When you said 10 paid ad tactics that always work, I was like, Stefan, you're killing me. Like there's so many variables, like the it depends answer that we always give. It was actually a fun exercise for me too, to kind of think, what are the truest safe bets, like all things considered that for the most part are generally always the case.
But I think maybe we should, I took a quick screenshot of your notes here, Silvio, and as we kind of switch chapters, I'll just read one out and I'll remove this one again. But the first one you have on your list here is refocusing your targeting on your best converting segments and personas. What's that?
Yeah, so what this means double check your targeting and make sure that you're putting dollars on your best performing audiences. So I'll give a quick story. I have one client of mine that their budget got cut. So we had 60% less budget, but we're actually able to generate 3 times as much pipeline this month, all because, and we created the same amount of opportunities as we did the prior month, but the biggest difference was the average deal size per opportunity was substantially greater. So what we did was we refocused on our best converting audience segments. So for us, that meant going up market, focusing on enterprise and creating enterprise deals. Oftentimes, the saying, the riches in the niches, the same is true on an ad perspective. Like if you can further segment your audience and really double down and focus that ad budget on those core buyers that are going to be the most likely to convert, greatest propensity to have the greatest close rate, etc. That is going to allow you to stretch your budget much further. So that's what I mean by that first point.
Is this then an ad network specific tactic, or is it agnostic, you'd say?
Agnostic across the board, but more so specifically LinkedIn, because you have the ability to go and make sure that you're getting that budget in front of this specific segment. Other channels, you just don't have that luxury, and it's just a different game you're playing. So you can't necessarily go that granular. But for LinkedIn specifically, and Facebook, if you're using some sort of third-party tool for audience targeting, absolutely you should take advantage of it.
Yeah, what is it? There's on LinkedIn, there's an option to see which accounts has actually been receiving your ads. What is it? It's called? I can't remember.
Yeah, the demographics report. So
yes, that one. Yeah.
If you have been running ads up until this point, let's say you're not necessarily thrilled with your results and you've gotten some good results, but it's not crazy good, and you're wondering, okay, do I have an opportunity here to refocus my budget? You can use the demographics report and then just take a quick peek at what companies are interacting with your ads, what job functions, what titles, etc. And then from there, make a data-driven decision on, hey, we're going to create a sub-segment campaign focused on these people that are already engaging the best with what we currently have.
I found that quite useful when I've set something up on LinkedIn and then actually checking, whoa, it's not at all this job function that should be seeing it. Let me go back to the campaign and let's exclude those. Or this company is receiving ads, but it has nothing to do with our ideal customers. So let's get rid of this immediately. There's Karen Nichols is throwing. Karen is throwing a curveball. I think you would call it in the US already. I'll pull it up here. What if your best performance segment is not your ICP? Have you run into that one?
That is a great one. Yeah, that means you definitely need to refocus. That tells me you have an audience targeting issue, and you probably need to adjust your targeting so that the ones that are converting the best are more closer to your ICP. Even, let's just use a practical example. Let's say we're going after people in the marketing space, right? We're going after our ideal customer profile as people who are head of demand gen, senior marketing managers, etc. But within that universe, maybe we see people in marketing operations or product marketing that are engaging the best, but they're not necessarily our best profile fit. That's still related to our overall, universe that we want to start targeting a little bit so that we get more of our ads in front of the people that we do want to get in front of. So if in the case with you, Karen, where you do notice your best performing segment is not even closely related to your ideal customer profile, then you definitely got to go ahead and tweak your audience targeting. And I highly recommend adding in exclusions as well. Equally important, when you're thinking about who you should target, you should think about who you want to exclude. So another way of thinking is your angel persona and your devil persona. Who is the worst fit ever? Think of that ahead of time, and then who would be the best fit, and make sure you're adjusting both with your targeting.
Yeah, we've been doing an antithesis to kind of our ideal customer profile, and it's been super helpful because it helps you make quick decisions about all things coming in. No, not at all these guys, and it's not these guys, and why are we even hitting ads on this account? Because it's way far from our ICP. That was a good first start. Make sure the quality is up in the audience section. So number 2, increasing the size of your ads to bump CTR. And then you have different kind of sizes of the ads.
Yep. So essentially, this is a pretty much a kind of a quick, no-brainer, easy tip. If you're running social ads, Facebook, LinkedIn, make sure you're using ads that elongate your, how it positions on the feed. So for example, by default, most people will use 1200 by 627 dimensions, which is this horizontal rectangle for their in-feed ads on Facebook, LinkedIn. They also allow you to do a 1200 by 1200, which is like a square. And the reason why this one typically performs better than the 1200 by 627 is just because it's longer and it takes up more space on the newsfeed. So the bigger your ad, the greater propensity for it to be clicked, because it's taking up more space. It becomes more visible. So that's an easy, quick tip for everybody here. If you're running ads on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and you're using 1200 by 627, run a test against 1200 by 1200 and let the data guide you and see what performs best.
I guess
the same is true with vertical.
Yeah, you've probably seen the data amongst metadata's customers and your own ad customers nowadays, I would imagine.
At first it was like a one-off thing, and then we started to roll it out consistently across different clients. And up until this point, it's just been so consistently proven to
Yeah.
outperform 1200 by 627 that I'm comfortable now saying that's just the go-to. Like with all my clients as well, I don't even ask for 1200 by 627 anymore. I'm just
No.
like, no, 1200 by 1200. And then for vertical image ads as well, that's another one that's really powerful. LinkedIn allows you to create an ad type specific for mobile, and that's 628 by 1200. And the reason that one performs so well on mobile is because it's
Yeah.
freaking massive. It just
Yeah.
takes up almost like the entire screen.
How do you set that one? I remember looking for it and struggling to find that option sometimes.
You just upload the ad. So the ad
Okay, you have the
dimension.
picture size and then it goes. Yeah.
Yep. So usually what I'll do is I will create my own campaign for vertical ads because it's like a mobile only placement, and I like to see the performance at the outset. And
Yeah.
then I'll have a vertical image ad campaign, and then I'll have just like a regular all other image ad campaign.
Super nice. Super low practical. I love it. Number 3, creating ads that fit the channel and placement. So we're talking stories, YouTube, TikTok, I guess LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. here. So what does it mean that it fits the channel and placement?
I have a lot to say here. One thing I did miss on the last point, super important, on paid search, make sure the same is true, focusing on increasing the size of your ads. So the way you do that on paid search is you add ad extensions. So by default, the ad extensions I recommend that you use is site link extensions, image extensions, structured snippet extensions. Those extensions are really powerful, especially the site links. That's the number one most important one because it
Yeah.
adds 4 relevant
Yeah,
links
you get
underneath
the-
your
yeah.
ad, and it just makes it bigger. So that's another quick tip for everyone here. If you're
Super
not
nice.
using ad extensions on paid search, get in the habit of doing that, because ad rank, which determines whether you're on the top of the page or nowhere to be seen. One
Yeah.
of the indicators of ad rank is the expected impact of ad extensions. And one of the factors of quality score is your expected click-through rate. And using ad extensions will help drive a higher click-through rate, which all in all will just help you have a better ad rank, lower quality score. You're going to be more visible.
Awesome. Let me just read out it again so you and the audience remembers. Number 3, creating the ads that fit the channel and the placement. Stories, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, etc.
Yep. So basically what I mean by this is, like, show a virtual hands here if you're in the lines
Yep.
where you're like, let's say I want to get started with YouTube ads and to get running on LinkedIn or on Facebook, and they look pretty good. I think they'll be all right. Let's go ahead and throw them as a YouTube ad. And then you
Yeah.
launch the campaign, you spend a couple $100 and
Guilty.
it doesn't really do anything. You
No,
don't really
yeah,
find
yeah.
success. Or another example is, how many of you have gone on Instagram or Facebook, but more so specifically Instagram, and you're scrolling through stories and you're watching your friends' stories, and then all of a sudden you see an ad that pops up in your story that obviously doesn't belong on that placement. It's like distorted, it's cut off, it just
Yeah.
doesn't look good. So what I mean by this is you want to make sure that when you approach a channel and a placement, that you're creating creative that is unique to that channel and that placement. Every single channel, the user behavior is different. What people expect when they go on LinkedIn is different from when they're on Facebook, when they're on Instagram, when they're on TikTok, when they're on YouTube.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest traps we make as advertisers, and we try to force
Yeah.
what we have on the user despite their experience. When it comes to paid social, there's this obsession of, how do I create ads that stand out? But specifically when it comes to paid social, it's kind of counterintuitive, but you want to blend in. You don't want people to realize your ad was an ad until after the fact. They're like, where they see your ad, but it's so related to what they experience in terms of like native best practices that it's almost indistinguishable from native content that they enjoy, that after the fact, they're like, oh, wait a second, that was an ad? Oh, they
Yeah.
did a good job. Let me
Yeah.
give them a like.
So that I agree with, but I can also see the limitations, at least at some companies, that where they would think, do we have enough creative power to actually do this? Is there any kind of advice on is it possible to do this on a shoestring budget, or do you need to be big for it to work?
I think the opposite is true. Sometimes having too many financial resources can be limiting in its own way, in the sense of you're not creative, you're just. So I think it's not so much a budget issue. I think it's more of a bandwidth issue. So can you commit to running ads on all these different platforms with unique creative and addressing different placements?
Yeah.
Probably not if you're a small team. It's a full-time job. I was actually interviewing Alex Panchuk at PandaDoc, and they're a much bigger startup. They have like a dedicated paid search manager, paid social. When you're advertising, you're spending millions of dollars in ads every month, and it gets to that level of scale, it becomes a full-time job, and you need different roles. So the first thing I would say is focus, right? And which is what you're doing, which is really good. You're going against the FOMO and you're controlling your efforts. So whatever you do decide to focus on that makes sense for you, given where your audience is, the media cost, the reach, the policy regulations, whatever channel, then put your best foot forward to try to create ads that are unique to that channel, right? Respecting the fact of the experience of the user so that you don't have this mismatch,
Good. I think that's solid as advice as well. Okay. Number 4, breaking desktop and mobile into separate campaigns. I guess that probably a little bit related to what we just talked about.
Similar. So this is extremely tactical and simple, but generally speaking, when it comes to B2B, on average, I consistently see desktop outperforms mobile. Sometimes as great as like 75% of conversions will come from desktop and then 25% from mobile. It varies by client, but generally desktop is always the higher performing device. And this is something that you guys can confirm if you have Google Analytics installed or some sort of analytics tool so that you can see what's your performance by device, or even in your ad platform. If you go into Google Ads, you can see your segment by device. But essentially, what you want to do is by breaking the campaigns out by device, yes, there is the creative element, but more so than that, just purely just based on performance. Because desktop is doing better for you, you want to make sure that that device is getting more budget, right? You're maximizing your impression share on that campaign for that device versus mobile, especially if you notice the average cost per acquisition dramatically varies by device. So for example, maybe mobile converts, but it converts at a 30% more expensive cost. So let's give mobile less budget and then more budget towards desktop that converts at a higher rate, a lower cost, as an example.
Super nice. That Google Analytics be your go-to to understand this, or would it be the individual ad platform, or where would you just check?
For me, it's usually the ad platform, especially if I have offline conversions set up and I trust it more. It'll usually be the ad platforms. The cool thing too with some of these channels, especially Google Ads, not to go too into the weeds, but you have the ability to set up, they're called value track parameters, where you can basically append different values to your ad links so that they dynamically pull in information based on the searcher. So one of them that you can pull in is like device. So it'll automatically update in your URL link based on the device that the user came from when they clicked on your ad. Sweet. So you can get that information.
Super nice. I think that's really valid as well. And
then you can store it in your CRM and pull reports on that.
Number 5, setting an ad schedule to serve weekdays or outside of GY hours. What is that an acronym for?
The graveyard hours.
This one I've been thinking about,
like
Silvio.
12 to.
Is it really worth it doing this adjustment? Stop it. We're in B2B here, so it makes sense. Nobody's in the office, but what about the seats that you planned during Saturday and Sunday? Don't they have any effect during the weekdays or during night and stuff?
Yes. So 2 things. One, there's 2 ways you can approach this. One, if you have budget restrictions, let's say your budget got cut and you need to do more with less. One extremely simple tactical thing you can do tomorrow to stretch your dollar is instead of showing your ads 7 days a week, show them 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, right? That will already allow you to have a greater average daily spend and concentrate your efforts, right, around the prime time hours versus stretching it because you're trying to cover 2 other 24-hour periods. On the next step is, well, let's say you don't need to be that aggressive. You do have some budget and you do want to cover the weekend, to your point, Stefan. People are doing research, right? They're browsing, they're learning, etc. Then, okay, let's do 7 days a week, but let's do 7 days a week during the time that people are actually awake, for the most part. So and then after 10, you don't deliver ads anymore. And this is also something that you can verify by looking in your analytics. So for example, if you go into Google Ads, you can look at your ads schedule report and see, like, the data will tell you. That's one of my favorite things about running ads is, like, your account is telling you a story and it's communicating through data, and it's your job to be able to read that and then make these inferences. Whenever I'm talking to clients, I'm like, it's like the data suggests. It's not about what I think, like the data suggests this based on, what this variable is telling us.
I'm cringing my toes for all the stupid, simple stuff that we're not doing at the moment, but it completely makes sense when you say it. I was even saying, I was thinking you could just go look at when your demo calls are requested. If that's a certain amount of hours per day, maybe that's only the time that you need to spend money on ads, or people are sleeping. So don't take the ads at that point.
Or if for example, you can look at your ad schedule report. Let's say on search, maybe you show ads Monday to Friday, and then on social specifically, you allow yourself to serve 7 days a week because people are on these social platforms, are researching at home, right? They're with the kids, etc. So you can make these nuances.
Damn, good stuff. Next one, 6, retargeting to drive conversions and trust. This one is one I go strong on as well.
This had to be in here. This is like, it's like a time-tested thing. I think for the most part, everyone knows retargeting works, and it works for different aspects. A lot of people, when they think of retargeting, they think just, hey, I'm going to drive conversions. But I highly recommend you also start to think of retargeting as like a nurture mechanism, similar to an email list. So with an email list, you get somebody who opts in, you send out an email, a certain percentage of those people will open the email, even fewer will click through and actually engage with whatever the piece of content you're linking or the offer. The same is true with the retargeting audience. People opt in. The difference is they opt in automatically based on their interactions of what they're doing online. And then from there, you have the ability to send content to them, to serve them content. Certain percentage of those people will click and they'll engage. So it's just another way of nurturing. So with retargeting, it's amazing because not only can you drive conversion, yes, because you're getting in front of people who ideally know, like, and trust you, but you also have the ability to nurture them further. So you can stay top of mind. And I think at the end of the day, like most B2B SaaS products, they're great in terms of like the technicalities and the features and et cetera. But the biggest challenge is just like no one knows you exist. And more importantly, they don't remember that you exist when it counts. So with retargeting, if you can stay top of mind, and maybe that's as simple as just like LinkedIn and Facebook to start, but then you can start to expand across channels of where your audience is. It's a really low cost way for you to just create that, I think there's a word for it, omnipresence, wherever they are.
We put out some benchmarks last year about how many sessions we saw per deal, like from first touch until the contract is actually signed. And it had like 192 days from the first touch until you sign a contract in these B2B accounts. And it had an average of 31 sessions. So it just goes to speak for it that like, great, you got the first touch in there, but the salesperson still need to work it through as well. And they're probably considering competitors to you as well. So you want to like squeeze your way into being top of mind at this company. So it's not your competition who buys those eyeballs when they're in market.
Yep, 100%. I just think of yourself too, right? Like you as a B2B buyer of software and all the different things you do when you're researching, et cetera. It's not B2C, right? Where it's like a linear path, add to conversion. There's so many more touch points. And that's where the value of retargeting is even stronger.
Yeah. Probably never have bought a product, a B2B product, the first time I saw it. It takes time to build that trust. Good. Leveraging, is it IP or a 1P data?
1P, first party.
First party, sorry. Leveraging first party data for targeting exclusions, account list, contacts, etc.
Yeah, this is a must, especially in B2B. So using some sort of tool or your own data to be able to target first party data, especially with Chrome removing cookies in the near future, this is going to become even more important. Essentially, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are leveraging, the contacts of existing customers, and you're excluding that from your campaign. So you're not showing ads to existing customers. You want to make sure that you're adding into your remarketing, I call it your echo chamber, that retargeting layer. You want to make sure you're adding in people who are, let's say, existing MQLs in nurture, right? That haven't had a opportunity created. So you're staying in front of those people. Think of these ad platforms as multi-billion-dollar machines that are hyper intelligent. but they require the right inputs in order to give you the right outputs. So that means you need to feed them good quality audience targeting, and then you need to feed them good conversion signals so that they know how to work in your behalf. I can upload a list into LinkedIn and create a lookalike off of that. So then lookalikes, LinkedIn can then go say, I'll find people who are similar to that source list that you gave me as an example. So the better data you have, if you have good data hygiene, you've been a good steward of your Salesforce instance, and you can leverage that in your ad channels, that'll give you a leg up on the competition to just be able to make sure your ad.
I can only double down on that. You can like keep good lists that you can then have in LinkedIn, so you can exclude and include and stuff like that. That's really helpful.
It's rough, like if you don't have that, then your only options are the native ones presented to you. So for example, if I want to advertise on Facebook and I have no first party data at all, or I can't like use a tool to be able to do advanced audience targeting, then it's not impossible, but it's harder. And you're going to have to go through a learning period to figure out like what interest combinations work better. And then there's different ways you can do it. For example, like you can push out videos and then retarget based on video consumption, but the video itself acts as a filter to attract the right person. But you have to go through this whole like iterative process versus give me a list of emails that I know is people within this function, this seniority. You upload it to the channel and away you go.
In my last company, we were in the fairy tale days of Facebook. We were crazy successful with the lookalike audiences. That was like 2017 or something like that, before the competition heated up. So you could do really, really good lookalike audiences, and then you could retarget people for 180 days as well. So that was the good old days.
Yeah, it's definitely, and it's always going to get more expensive, right? Like all these platforms, you're living on borrowed time. At the end of the day, every social media platform, the reach is great in the beginning, right? They want to get influencers, creators on the platform, right? Create collaboration. Then they start to monetize, throttle organic reach, right? TikTok is here now. Like the reach is still great, but they're monetizing and it's not as good. And then the balance on the platform side is doing the dance between like throttling it too much. Like Facebook, they killed organic reach. Now nobody tries to build social profiles there. But essentially over time, everyone, like the platforms want you to advertise, right? So like that's what they're always going to push. So if you have the ability to essentially do what they want, right? Give them money, but do it in a responsible way. You're always going with the trend, but the media costs will always get more expensive over time if the channel's good.
Yeah, take it from both of us. If something works, then spend more money on it right now. Number 8, building a report that connects channel spent to CRM performance. Doing what we do at Dreamdata, I can only testify that that's a good idea.
This might seem really simple, and maybe you're watching this, you're like, oh yeah, basic. Give me something like more juicy, if you will. I'm telling you, the reason I put this in there is because every single time I build a dashboard for a client, this doesn't have to be complicated. You can do this in Google Sheets, and you can automate it for $100 a month with like a data connector. But every time I build a dashboard where it shows this is how much you spent on the platform, and then this is how many leads were reported back, opportunities, etc., from your CRM. And then you can start to see the real cost per lead, the real cost per op, right? The real return on investment. Without fail, my clients are always like, their eyeballs light up. They're like, oh wow, like I didn't realize our cost per lead was so expensive before, and now it's going down. That's great. Or vice versa. I didn't realize we were doing good back in February, and now things are off the rocker, So half of the battle is having the right visibility. You can have the greatest advertiser of all time in your account managing your campaigns, but if they don't have the right visibility and reporting, they're going to make the wrong decisions. They're going to pause things, they're going to cut. It's just
so powerful, this move. This is something that works out of the box with our product, but just the fact that you can flip between we converted an email and did this email move on to the sales pipeline or not? Just by switching your focus from the email to the sales pipeline makes you take so much better decisions about which campaigns do we double down on and which don't we.
Yeah, you gotta have the visibility. There's no excuse, honestly. There's no excuse. There's a lot of, this is something I'm actually working on in the future, but like giving people the know-how on how to do these things.
Yeah.
But it's something that I highly recommend. Like every marketer learns how to do at least once in their career, how to build a dashboard, because it's so insightful. And then from there, you'll always be able to build at least a rough report, right? To get what you need.
Number 9, improving your landing pages passing the 5-second test. So what is this?
Yeah, this is a old usability thing in the conversion rate optimization world, but essentially we spend so much money on ads, like ridiculous amount of money on ads, and we're hyper obsessed. I know I'm so guilty of this. What's the best campaign structure, the objective, this, that you're like pulling all these dials, and then you completely forget about where you're sending people when they click on your ad, the landing page.
Yeah.
And basically what the 5-second test is above the fold. So before somebody scrolls down on your landing page, without scrolling down, they just land for the first time. In 5 seconds, can they understand what do you do? Like, why should they care? How are you like actually helpful? Like, what's in it for them? And then what's the next logical step that they can take? All within 5 seconds. So that's typically, it means the H1, like your primary headline, it needs to be very clear, speak to what you do, right? Then from there, the sub headline will usually speak to like why you're better, why they should care. And then the call to action button is like how they can take the next step. So making sure that your landing page answers that, it passes the 5-second test, is a really small change that you can make that will have a dramatic impact in terms of performance. Without fail, every time we optimize the landing page and we improve the conversion rates, it just makes everything else easier. Assuming the media costs will continue to rise, if you can get that landing page conversion rate to increase, it'll help offset that difference.
Yeah. And is there any kind of rule of thumb benchmark you can share here, Silvio, in terms of what is like conversion rate on the page, or is it time on page? What metric would you be looking for as the leading indicator here?
Assuming we're talking direct response campaigns that we're trying to drive demos, et cetera, it's always conversion rates. So how many of the people that go to this page, what's the conversion rate in terms of form completions?
Yeah.
And that's really what you want to benchmark against. Time on page is kind of a looser insight. It's not that it's not valuable. For me, what I find more valuable to really understand what's going on here with this page is using session recordings. So if you're using some sort of third-party tool, you can see session recordings and actually see what are people doing when they're on your page. And that's super insightful. And oftentimes I notice with clients where they have individual landing pages that have navigation, people will go to the landing page and you'll see them like scroll through, and then they'll click through to like the home page, they'll click on the logo, and then from there they go to the integrations page or the about page. They start to like go to different places. Oftentimes what that, like in the experiments that we've ran, is when we've noticed people are going to these different sections of the page isn't answering their question. So those different key areas that they're going to on their own or can highlight on your landing page, so that you curate that experience for them, because you're assuming and you're making it harder on them to actually like have to go navigate your website. And God forbid if you have like bad UX and have to go and figure out like where's your integration page and all that. So all those sections that they go to could be a good insight for you to add them to your landing page.
It makes sense. You could probably even trigger a chat if they've been there for 30 seconds and like, didn't you find what you were looking for? Like, let us know what's missing on this page or something.
100%. But always assume people are going to take the path of least resistance, especially when people are in research mode. They're not the same person. Like they've done studies, like when you're actively like mindlessly scrolling, researching, like you're not operating at the same brain capacity. You know what I mean? You're like in this dull state. So imagine your prospect at their worst state in terms of brain power, and how can you speak to them clearly, make it painfully obvious, right? Like how you can help them, what's the next step, etc., and then give them the necessary information.
Yeah. Makes sense. All right. So there's only a few bullets left, but any of you who are listening, if there's a question you want Silvio to answer, then hurry up and type it into the chat. I will grab it just after the last two bullets. That's actually just one last bullet, but feeding CRM events into the ad channel for optimization. This is interesting.
This is something that you guys actually do, and it's extremely powerful. And what it is you want to make sure that you're using offline conversions. So there's two ways you can track conversions online as of right now. You can track client side, which is through the browser. This is when you're using the ad platform's pixel. So for example, if you install the Facebook pixel and now you're setting up conversion events to track activity, right? With the Facebook pixel, all that's done through the browser, that's client side. The other way you can track is server side. This is all done through the API. And this is where you are connecting your CRM to the ad platform, usually through a click ID. And this is how they're able to communicate to each other to know, hey, this person, they became a lead because they're in my Salesforce. and then that triggers an event back into the ad platform to measure as a conversion. The reason why this is extremely important, just to go back to a point I made earlier, is you have these extremely intelligent machines that they know how to get in front of the right person. If you give them the right signals, they know how to find more of them. They have so many different parameters in their machine learning algorithms that they're looking at that we can't even fathom. I can only imagine.
Yeah.
But it all depends on what are we feeding them, right? Because if we're not giving them high quality conversion data, they can't make those inferences. So setting up offline conversions is, you want to make sure you're tying your CRM data back into the platform for optimization, and you're not relying on the pixel to do that for you. It's extremely inaccurate. And even if you debug it in Google Tag Manager, maybe you guys listening to this, you've had this experience, you set it up perfectly, but it still will like overcount on the amount of conversions in your Google Ads account versus when you look in Salesforce, the count is never 100%, you know? And even with offline conversions, it's still not going to be 100%, but it's closer to like 90%. And then if you're advertising on Facebook, it's even worse because of iOS 14. Even if somebody had a conversion and Facebook recognized it, if they opted out of the ATT prompt, Facebook can't recognize that conversion. So you're already at a conversion deficit. So all in all, it's just feeding higher quality conversion signals back into the channel so that they know how to make the decisions for you.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And like we're in B2B here, so it's not about collecting just another email. It's about collecting the right kind of emails and acquiring more of the right kind of emails.
Yeah,
have you seen any benchmarks, Silvio, in terms of, and LinkedIn, they claim that it improves cost per acquisition with 7%. Have you seen any other like numbers being dropped somewhere?
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about benchmarks just because it always
I was just curious
ranges
because we've been
barely
talking
like
about
widely,
it.
but generally speaking, I think the real power, like absolutely. I mean, I've seen it range from, just to give you some numbers, on the low end like 15%, as high as 46% in terms of like drops in cost per acquisition. It's pretty dramatic. But the coolest thing about this is, like, another way to explain it is, using offline conversions, you can train the algorithm to bid for the conversions that matter. So let me give you a real example. Let's say your sales process is lead, MQL, SQL, opportunity.
Pretty
By
close.
using offline conversions, you can tell Google, hey, Google, a lead is worth less than an MQL is worth less than an SQL, and SQL is worth less than opportunity, assuming it all happens in 90 days. So then Google knows that they can bid more aggressively for somebody based on their machine learning algorithm and all this stuff that they think will likely become an SQL. They'll bid more aggressively, especially if you're using automated bidding, so that you can drive more SQLs and less leads. So you're better training the algorithm to work in your favor. And that's what results in this CPA difference. And in addition to just people just making better decisions because they're actually reporting on the right stuff.
Yeah, I'm smiling because we're releasing this offline conversions to Google next week, so really excited to see how it's going to perform.
Nice.
One super tactical thing, is there any benchmark for how many conversions you need to send back to Google? I recall with Facebook back in the day, you had to send like, for the
50
algorithm,
a week.
50, yeah, that was the number, yeah. I don't know if the other.
Yeah, and that's a little crazy for B2B, 50 a week, unless you're doing like
Yeah,
content
you don't have 50 new deals.
Yeah, it's a bit. I mean, their primary user is like B2C, but for Google, it's 15 conversions a month is kind of like the general rule of thumb. So
one more time.
15 a month.
15 a month
is the general rule of thumb. Yeah,
super nice. Okay, got it.
So what I usually do is, for new clients, is no bidding or maximize clicks, build your conversion history, and then once you have 15 conversions, you can roll it out. Or if you already have a seasoned account, then you can just start off with something automated like max conversions, target CPA, but just keep an eye on it, because sometimes when you don't have enough conversion stats by campaign, Google will automatically increase your cost per click price dramatically.
I've seen that.
So just be careful.
Yeah, you can set a cap also too. I'm not willing to pay more than $200 per click or $100, depending on where you're at.
Yeah, where it gets tricky is if you use max conversions, you can't set a bid cap. So Google is fully in control. If you use target CPA, then you can tell Google like, hey, I only want you to try to drive conversions around this amount. A quick pro tip for everybody listening: if target CPA works really well for you, but you want the ability to control the bid cap, if you set up target CPA bidding at the campaign level, they don't give you that option. But if you set up target CPA as a portfolio bid strategy, you do have the ability to set a bid cap.
This is
So
the
just
good stuff, Silvio. That's awesome. Now we're we're through the 10 paid ad tactics that always work in B2B. I'm pretty convinced that you actually nailed these ones, Silvio.
Thank you.
There's a bunch of questions now, so if you have time, we can run through a few of them.
Let's do it.
This is Lloyd Griffiths. So for a company that's never run ads before and has little real idea of their power, what kind of campaigns would you run to show exact level we need regular ad budget?
That's a good question. I think the easiest place to start is retargeting. If you can, even if you're not planning on running any ads anytime soon, I highly recommend that you just create an account in the ads manager and then just install the pixel on your website so you can already start to build that retargeting audience in the background. And then from there, the reason why retargeting works well is you need to always take into consideration the affinity and stage of awareness of the audience you're targeting. So these people, in terms of their stage of awareness in relation to your product, are, they're probably solution aware, right? They're aware of you. Maybe they're most aware in the sense of they're a customer. So because of that, they have a greater brand affinity. They're more likely to convert, even if you have weaker creative, weaker copy, because they just like you, right? So that is an easy starting point if you are thinking about getting started. And it's just an easy way for you to extend your reach on a very cheap cost because you're not going to have a huge audience size. Outside of that, what I would say if you are serious about getting into ads and you're not sure what's the best platform to get started with is first create an ads account in whatever platform you're considering. And then just look at the targeting options, like create a fake campaign. They're not going to charge you unless you launch it. So just create a fake campaign and just see what's possible. Like for example, when I got started with TikTok ads last year in January, I created a free TikTok ads account and I just started looking in the ads manager and I'm like, what do they have here? Like, what can I play with, right? What options do I have available? And then from there, if you realize, hey, I do have a real opportunity here to get in front of the people that I want to get in front of, then you can take it to a next step, which is run like a quick pilot campaign. Just spend $100. You're not trying to get rich here. You're just spending $100 so you can get a real sense of what your baselines are. What's your average cost per click, your average CPM. So then from there, now you have a real sense of what your media costs would be for this channel. So then from there, now you can start to think through some projections. Like if we have a CPC of this and we estimate on the worst case a conversion rate of this, here's what we can expect as a potential return.
Super nice, Silvio. I think that like the retargeting is just like if you haven't gone to Google, LinkedIn, Facebook and taken their retargeting pixel and put it on your website, you should just stop what you're doing and install that right away.
Another use case too, if you are a sales-led company, because I think that's where this question would come from more so people that like they grew through outbound, right? They don't believe in marketing.
Yeah.
Is the first way you can start to get buy-in on ads and start to prove the value is helping sales extend their efforts with air cover. I hate that word, but like getting in front of the key accounts, et cetera, making sure you're hitting from another channel, right? Another touch point. So if you are working at an outbound company, tell them how you can upload an account list and get in front of their same companies through LinkedIn, through Facebook, et cetera, and be able to extend that reach.
Makes a lot of sense. One more. If you have a very long customer journey, what is the best method to give correct attribution and value to each source so you can spend your budget more wisely?
This is a good question and it's tough. I don't think anybody has the secret, but I'll tell you what works for me. So for me, I typically like to look at the first touch. I like to look at the last touch. Those are, when it's all kind of said and done. And then what I also like to do is I like to look at self-reported as well, just as like a qualitative input. So I look at those three things. And what I also do is from a reporting perspective, I look at direct pipe to spend by channel. So for the channels where I am trying to drive a direct response, I look at the pipeline to spend invested. It's one of my favorite metrics. But what I also look at is I look at blended cost. So paid and organic. What is the overall blended demo request that we got this month? Blended opportunities created divided by cost. So now I have an overall efficiency number that I can measure against. And between that, I noticed the blended cost per opportunity is going down and we're getting more ops. And then I can see, the first touch was LinkedIn organic, or I can see, from self-reported, a lot of people are mentioning my YouTube channel, etc. That's enough for me to understand kind of more or less what's moving this.
Yeah, I'll just do a little extra to it because this is what we do every day. But I think the first firstly, first touch model is also probably D1 I look at for paid ads, because I want to know what starts new journeys consistently. Then there's a lot of things in between the first touch and the deal being won, but is there things that are consistently the first touch that are those are really the things that attracts me. The second thing I wanted to say is that you need to be able to view the timelines in an account-based fashion. So you're not just studying the acts of an individual. And what I mean by that is that if, let's say, you have 3 people involved in a deal, and you spend your money attracting that first touch, that guy who goes out and does the research for the company, and then he has a colleague, and then he has another colleague that signs the contract. If those 3 people are not part of the same timeline, you actually can't look at the first touch. You'll be able to look at the first touch of that guy that signs the contract, but that's actually not where the demand is coming from. So if any way you can get into looking at things in an account-based timeline, that will give you a more relevant first touch to look at than if it's detached from each other. 2 more, Silvio, and then I'll let you go for the day. There's a very low practical request here. Any hack to set up a 5-day schedule on LinkedIn ads? I think it's only possible by manually. That's Jonas Kurtzweg.
You can't set up ad scheduling natively. You can only set it up through the API. So you'll need like some sort of third-party tool to do it. Unfortunately, hopefully they change that in the future. But for now, if you don't have access to like a third-party tool for ad scheduling, then you can just go to Google and start doing some research, like LinkedIn ad scheduling tools, and find some. But without that, right now it's kind of like it is what it is. We just can't do it in LinkedIn. Hopefully they roll that out in the future.
Were metadata able to do that?
No, metadata cannot ad schedule, at least from when I was there.
One more and then we're done. This is Alex Carter. I'm building these dashboards in a pretty manual fashion at the moment. Do you have a guide on how to build it out with automated connectors? And I think you put out a blog post or a video for that, right, Silvio?
I haven't shown the whole process. I think I just showed like a little sneak peek of what it could look like. But Alex, I don't have one yet, but I think you'll like what I'm going to announce next month, because I'll have something that can help you.
Super nice. Let's say that's it, Silvio. There's been so much value here, and I love the practicalities of it and the simplistic nature of it. And if I do get myself together, I can go act on this right now. I think the audience has learned a ton here, and I just want to say thank you for spending the time with us, Silvio. If you were to just do a short pitch for AdConversion, or where people can reach out if they want to learn more, what would that be?
Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast. And if you guys want more content to level up your paid advertising game, I highly recommend checking out AdConversion.com and joining my newsletter. You'll get 2 to 3 tips every single week on how to scale pipeline and revenue with paid ads. And then I also have a YouTube channel. It's just my name, Silvio Perez, where we're posting videos every week on, we actually just rolled out a new series. We're interviewing other practitioners, how they're scaling ads at their companies. And then we just have a bunch of tutorials as well, like how to get started with LinkedIn ads, scaling conversation ads, advanced strategies for Google search, and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, as I said in the beginning, this is really like super high quality stuff that Silvio is putting out. So go follow him on the different social platforms.
Thank you.
That's it. Have a great day, guys.
We hope you like listening to us. Subscribe to our podcast and the ones that we have been guests on.
And if you have any feedback for us, just do let us know. And should there be a guest that you think we should be talking to, then pitch us.
We're looking forward to seeing you.